Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. We're diving into AI and crypto news today, and let me tell you, we've got some big stuff to unpack. Buckle up, because we're going to be talking about a breaking news bombshell and some seriously interesting market insights.
Yeah, it's a wild mix today, that's for sure. We've got politics and tech and finance all colliding. It really shows how intertwined these worlds are getting.
Absolutely. So first up, we got to talk about this huge announcement from President-elect Trump.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
He just appointed David Sachs as the White House AI and crypto czar. I mean, a czar.
It's a pretty bold move for
Yeah.
sure. Shows how serious the new administration is about being a major player in the future of AI and crypto.
So for anyone out there who might not know who David Sachs is,
Right, Bill is in.
he's been a big name in tech for a while now.
He really has. I mean, just look at his resume. Former COO of PayPal, founded Yammer, was interim CEO at Zenefits, co-founded Kraft Ventures. Talk about a Silicon Valley all-star.
Speaking of PayPal, this appointment has put the spotlight back on that whole PayPal mafia thing.
Oh, yeah, that legendary group of ex-PayPal employees who founded so many successful companies.
Exactly. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It really is. I mean, we're talking about people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and of course, Sachs himself.
And they're not just sticking to tech anymore, right? It seems like their influence is reaching into politics, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Elon Musk co-leading the Department of Government Efficiency. And Peter Thiel has been a very vocal supporter of Trump all along,
It's definitely interesting to see.
for sure.
Okay, so let's get back to Sachs and this impressive new title. What exactly is he supposed to do as this czar?
Well, the main goal is to create a clear legal framework for the crypto industry in the U.S. It's about setting up the regulatory foundation for crypto to really thrive.
That sounds like a big challenge, especially considering how, crypto still has that Wild West reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. That lack of clear regulation has been a huge roadblock for the industry's growth here in the U.S. So, Sachs is tasked with bringing some order to the chaos, so to speak, make it more predictable.
Right. So is his focus just crypto, or does he deal with AI too?
Both, actually. Alongside the crypto czar title, he's also going to be the chair of a White House Advisory Council on Science and Technology.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Oh.
He's essentially shaping policy for two of the most transformative technologies of our time. What kind of impact are we talking about here?
Oh, the impact could be huge. His decisions are going to shape the landscape for both AI and crypto, not just in the US, but potentially globally.
What's the initial reaction been like? How have the tech and crypto communities responded to this appointment?
The response has been really positive so far. You've got people like Elad Gil, big investor in companies like Airbnb and Coinbase, calling it a strong move. And even Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, publicly congratulated Sachs on X.
So it sounds like there's a lot of optimism around this. People seem to think he's going to be a good advocate for the industry.
Definitely. And Steve Zhang, founder of Kindred Ventures and a co-investor with Sachs, predicts Sachs will favor what he calls a light touch approach to regulation.
Interesting. So what does that mean in practice? What would a light touch approach look like when it comes to regulating these industries?
It basically means that the focus would be on regulating how AI is applied, not on controlling the actual development of AI models. So regulating how it's used in different sectors, but not putting restrictions on the fundamental research and development.
Okay, so why is that distinction so important? Why is there such a big push to regulate applications instead of development?
Well, there's this strong feeling within Silicon Valley, especially among those leading AI innovation, that strictly regulating AI development could actually hinder progress.
I see. So it's about finding a balance, right?
Yeah.
You want to have some regulations to protect people, but also not stifle innovation.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can protect consumers and address any potential risks without killing that creative energy and entrepreneurial spirit that drives all this technological progress.
So how does this all fit into the bigger picture of Trump's agenda, particularly when it comes to crypto?
Well, Trump has been very clear about being pro-crypto.
Oh, yeah, he has.
He said many times that he wants the U.S. to be the crypto capital of the planet, remember?
So appointing Sachs seems like a concrete step towards that goal. It sends a strong message to the crypto world that he's serious about creating a favorable environment for them.
Absolutely. And it goes hand in hand with some of his other moves, like nominating Paul Atkins, who's a known crypto advocate, to lead the SEC.
And while we're on the topic of crypto, there's another piece of news that's making waves right now.
Oh, tell me about it.
Bitcoin has just smashed through the $100,000 mark.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's the first time ever.
It's a huge deal for the financial world. It seems like this combination of potentially crypto-friendly policies and other market forces is really driving this massive rally. I mean, Matthew Dibb, the CIO of Astronaut Capital, even called the news extremely bullish and praised Sachs's deep understanding of both the technical and commercial sides of crypto. So we've covered Sachs's impressive career, his new role as the czar, and how it's already affecting the crypto market. But what about the man himself? What kind of person is David Sachs?
Well, one thing that really stands out is that he's been a longtime supporter of crypto.
Yeah.
Back in 2017, he even gave this really passionate interview where he described the rise of Bitcoin as a revolution.
So he's not just jumping on the bandwagon now.
No, no. His involvement with crypto goes way back.
Is there anything else about him, like his personality or his past, that might give us some clues about how he'll approach this new role?
Well, he co-authored this book called The Diversity Myth, which is a critique of political correctness in higher education. He's also donated to both Democratic and Republican political campaigns, which suggests he might have a more, how should I say, a more nuanced political stance than some might assume.
So he's a bit of an enigma then.
Yeah, a bit of a mystery man, which makes this whole appointment even more interesting.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the breaking news for now. We've introduced you to the key players, but what does it all mean for you, the listener? What does this mean for the future of AI and crypto? We'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into those questions.
I think it's important to kind of step back for a minute and really think about what Sachs's appointment could mean for our listeners, the people who are actually in the trenches of the AI and crypto space, building this tech, investing in it, and shaping its impact on the world.
Right, exactly. We've laid out the facts, but now we need to connect the dots. So what does this all mean for developers, investors, everyday users? What could be the real-world impact of having a crypto czar in the White House?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? If Sachs really does embrace this light touch regulation like people are predicting, it could be a game changer, like a golden age for both AI and crypto.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. What would that look like?
Well, imagine a scenario where innovation can flourish, where there are fewer regulatory hurdles to jump through, and where investor confidence is high.
So we're talking about a potential boom for these industries, a surge in investment, development, adoption, all of that.
It's definitely a possibility. A clear, predictable regulatory environment could really attract more capital and talent to the U.S. It could solidify our position as a global leader in both AI and crypto.
But of course, there are always two sides to every coin, right? So while the potential upside is exciting, are there any downsides? Any challenges that might come with this approach?
Oh, for sure. One valid concern is that a hands-off approach could lead to unintended consequences. I mean, we've seen some of the risks that come with a largely unregulated crypto market, like scams, fraud, the volatility.
Right, it's a balancing act, isn't it? Finding that sweet spot between encouraging growth and protecting people.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget about the whole other dimension of AI, safety, and ethics. That's a whole other can of worms.
Okay, so let's open that can of worms.
Yeah.
What are some of the key ethical considerations when it comes to AI? What will Sachs and his counsel have to deal with?
Well, as AI gets more and more sophisticated and more integrated into our lives, there are some really fundamental questions we need to ask ourselves. How do we make sure it's being developed and used responsibly? How do we prevent bias and discrimination from seeping into these systems?
Right, those are some big questions.
They really are. They have huge implications for society, and we can't just ignore them. They need careful consideration.
It sounds like the stakes are incredibly high with all of this. The decisions made by this administration are going to have ripple effects far beyond just the tech industry.
Absolutely. We're not just talking about shaping the future of a few companies. We're talking about shaping the trajectory of technologies that could reshape entire industries, change the way we work, even change our relationship with technology itself.
This is why we're doing this deep dive, right? To break down these complex issues and give our listeners the knowledge they need to navigate this rapidly changing landscape.
That's right. Knowledge is power, especially in a world where technology is advancing so quickly.
So bringing it back to Sachs, I think one of the most intriguing things about him is his seemingly contradictory background. He's donated to both Democrats and Republicans. He co-authored a book that critiques political correctness, and now he's leading the charge on AI and crypto for a Trump administration. It's a strange mix, isn't it?
It really is, and it raises questions about what his core values are and how they'll shape his approach to regulating these technologies.
So how do you think these seemingly opposing elements of his past might play out in actual policy decisions? What kind of approach do you think we can expect from him?
It's tough to say for sure, but I think his diverse experiences could lead him to be more pragmatic and nuanced in his approach than maybe some others who are more ideologically driven.
So you're thinking he might be more willing to compromise, to find common ground between Silicon Valley's desire for innovation and the need for some level of regulation and oversight.
Yeah, maybe he's uniquely positioned to understand both sides of the argument and can find solutions that address people's concerns without stifling progress.
That would be quite an accomplishment, given how divided everything feels right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to take skill and a willingness to listen to different perspectives. This is all about navigating a really complex intersection of technological advancement, economic interests, and social concerns.
So for our listeners out there who are building and using these technologies, why should they care about this potential for compromise? What's the takeaway for them?
Well, if Sachs can pull it off, if he can find that middle ground, it could mean a more stable and predictable regulatory environment for everyone involved, which ultimately is good for everyone.
So, best case scenario, both the industry and the public benefit from a more balanced, thoughtful approach to regulation.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of these technologies for good,
Yeah,
making sure they're used to benefit humanity and not the other way around.
I like that. The possibilities are definitely exciting. It'll be interesting to see how Sachs balances the interests of all these different groups, the tech giants, the startups, investors, everyday users.
A lot of moving pieces for sure.
And remember, this is just the beginning. Sachs has just been appointed, so we'll have to wait and see how his vision translates into actual action.
The next few months will be key as he builds his team, sets his priorities, and starts really shaping the regulatory landscape.
It's a story that's just starting to unfold, and we'll be here to provide you with the analysis and commentary as it develops. But before we get into predictions about the future, we have to talk about that other big story, the skyrocketing value of Bitcoin. We'll be back in a moment to break that down. All right, so let's talk Bitcoin. We can't ignore the fact that it just blew past $100,000. What's fueling this crazy surge, and what does it tell us about the future of crypto?
Well, it's not just one thing, right? It's a bunch of factors all coming together.
Okay, so break it down for us.
Well, the news about Sachs and the potential for a more, let's say, crypto-friendly U.S. government has definitely boosted confidence in the market. But there's more to it than just that.
Like what?
Well, we're also seeing more and more big institutions getting involved in crypto, like hedge funds, asset management firms, the big players. They're starting to see the potential.
So it's not just us little guys anymore. The big money is starting to flow in.
Exactly. And when you have that kind of institutional capital coming into the market, it brings a sense of legitimacy. It makes it more stable, which in turn attracts even more investors and drives up demand.
But doesn't that kind of rapid growth make you worry about a bubble? Like, what if it all comes crashing down?
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. Crypto is known for being volatile, and while things are definitely looking bullish right now, we have to remember that markets can correct themselves pretty quickly. What goes up can come down.
So what's your advice to our listeners who are watching this Bitcoin rally and maybe feeling a little FOMO?
I would say don't let emotions drive your investments. Do your research, understand the risks, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Sound advice. So we've talked a lot about the market side of things, but I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. How do you see AI and crypto impacting society as a whole?
Well, both of these technologies have the potential to be incredibly disruptive, right? And that can be both good and bad.
Give us an example.
One of the big worries people have is about jobs. As AI and automation get more advanced, some jobs are inevitably going to disappear.
So how do we deal with that? How do we make sure that the benefits of these technologies are shared fairly and that people who lose their jobs have a chance to adapt?
That's the million-dollar question. It's complicated and there's no easy answer. But I think it's crucial that we invest in education and retraining programs. Help people develop the skills they need for the jobs of the future.
Right, because the jobs are going to change, that much is certain.
Exactly. We also need to be thinking about things like social safety nets and economic support systems because the transition isn't going to be easy for everyone.
And what about the potential for bias in these systems? We've already seen examples of AI algorithms perpetuating existing biases, especially in areas like criminal justice. How do we prevent that from happening?
Transparency and accountability are key. We need to understand how these algorithms are making decisions and hold them accountable when they produce unfair or discriminatory outcomes. So we need to make sure that the people developing these technologies are thinking about the ethical implications.
Absolutely. It's a collaborative effort. Policymakers, technologists, ethicists, everyone needs to work together to develop frameworks for AI governance and oversight. And of course, we can't forget about data privacy.
Right, because AI and crypto both rely on massive amounts of data.
Exactly. Data privacy is a fundamental human right, and we have to be very careful that our data isn't being misused or exploited. That means clear regulations, strong cybersecurity measures, and making sure people understand how their data is being used.
So it seems like the future of AI and crypto is going to require some careful navigation. We need to be aware of the risks while also embracing the potential benefits.
I agree. It's a balancing act for sure. But if we do it right, if we work together and prioritize ethical considerations, I think these technologies can be a real force for good in the world. That's a great note to end on. So to wrap up, we've talked about the breaking news, the market trends, and the broader societal implications of AI and crypto. It's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape. What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I would say stay informed, stay engaged, and remember that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of these technologies.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. We'll be back soon with more in-depth analysis as the story continues to unfold. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.